Because once you can do that, you can go bang. And then, maybe, combine that with, this pattern, which is. And then,
Let me ask you a question here, Josh, coming in.
Yeah, sure.
People are curious if you've remapped the location of these drums. It looks like your hands are very centrally located.
That's a great question. The great thing about general MIDI drum kits, which you should really only use general MIDI mapping when you're doing these kinds of things, because the kick is always on C, the snare is always on D, and it's doubled. Let me see, C1 and C. Is it C3 or is it C2? Yeah, C3, or is it C4? I don't know. So you have the drum kit, the kick and the snare replicated twice. Once one down at the bottom and one in the middle, and that will always be there if it's general MIDI. So it can be any drum kit as long as it's general MIDI mapping.
I see. And I saw up earlier someone had asked if you ever do this with controller pads, and I know that's
never.
Never.
No, I don't like it. I like the keyboard is, and I guess it's just because I'm so used to it. You could do it on a drum pad. I guess it would be kind of the same, but like for me, I know where all the keys are, and also that tactile feedback of hitting the key all the way down and then up.
And it also seems, just from watching you, that you kind of have this like two claw overlapping system where it's all right there. And at least from myself, when I try and use a pad controller, my hands are often like coming at it, like, I don't know what that would be, but from two different, it's not quite as efficient, it seems.
Well,
but that's not to say it's wrong. If it works for someone, it works for someone.
No, I totally got you. And I guess it's like, I'm going to get back to that, it's an emotional thing. Like, typically I do have my left hand all the way down on C1, and then, my other hand on C2, and then, it's like mixing and matching. So, I have here, and then you can't see it, but, I also have my hand down on C1, so adding, like if I'm going, bang, instead I'll have my hand all the way down here, and you can't see it, but you can hear it, right? And you do feel a little more free, and I would actually suggest not doing that in the beginning, because having your hands close together, you can kind of see what you're doing and not having to look to your left and look to your right. You can just focus on what's right in front of you.
Gotcha. Okay, so sorry, I'm sort of going stream of conscious here, and just when I see a good question, yeah, sure. I'm jumping in. But so I liked what you were saying, though, this idea that the first thing you do when you're trying to teach your hands to not move is to just let them not move. Just make them move in a different way. Keep the beat going, but just lift your hand up instead of pressing down. I think that's a kind of good way to look at it.
Yeah, the key is like I guess in a sense, like acknowledging the beat that didn't play. You know what I mean? That space, So if I'm like bang, and it seems weird when it's by itself, but when you're, when you speed it up a little bit, it starts making perfect sense. And that's the key.
Makes
of like
oompa music.
Right. And it's funny because once you get comfortable doing it slow, believe me, you'll speed up very quickly. And
And Eric Two Sax is asking us if you're on weighted keys and whether that matters or not.
Yeah, it does matter. I use unweighted keys. I tend to prefer Korg keyboards. Weighted keys, I don't like playing drums on them at all because they're, just a little too tactile. There's some delay coming back up and, pushing back down and hammering. And yeah, I prefer unweighted keyboard though.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's get us to the next level. We can keep a metronome with one hand, and we can alternate.
Right.
Where do we go from there?
Oh well, that's an essay question. But well, let's see. We got what's that? That's a little different, right? I'm going. It's just deconstructed, man. So that section is just bum, 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 bum. And just my advice, you just play those little sections till you're comfortable, and start adding them in. And really, again, the key, I can't stress this enough, forget about this hand. Always forget, because it just doesn't change. And, you'll get to the point where you can do it with one hand, man. And it's just, if you work on the basics and just do it slowly, you will eventually speed up. And if you just let yourself go, you start just coming up with any number of beats. I mean, sometimes I'll just record myself on record, just playing, and see what I come up with. So if I'm like, I'll do that for an hour, and then just sift through what I like. Or if I got a track that I'm working on, I'll just play along with it from beginning to end and grab the pieces that I want. And, it doesn't have to be perfect, because you're probably going to quantize it anyway,
I was going to ask you about that.
Sure.
So you're playing these in live, and your feel's good. I mean, it feels very natural. But are you still going to then take this and quantize it? Or are you going to quantize parts of it, explode the note lanes, or?
Well, that depends. You see, and typically I'll only explode the note lanes when I'm going to bounce it out to be mixed somewhere else, where they want everything separate. Because, again, that comes back to programming, and I just, the less programming I can do, the better. So I just lost my train of thought. What was...
I was talking about quantizing. I mean, do you still quantize it?
Right, and I'll quantize it, but also sometimes if I'm really feeling that groove, man, I'll then grab the feel of it, I'll extract it and put it into regroove, and then make everything match the groove to what I just played. And I mean, my God, man, some of that stuff, you just be shocked at like how tight and just funky it sounds.
Wow. Well, so
I mean, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was. Well, actually, hang on a second. Oh, Chief Dame is asking what kit or patch he's using. Just to reiterate for any late joiners, Josh is using Reason Soul School right now. That's his kit du jour.
Yeah, Detroit.
We've got a request from Tonal Access. Is asking if you can play something in an electronic kit style.
Like Big Beat?
Maybe.
All right. Sure. Oh, dubstep. Hold on. Whoop, hold on, let me start over. Maybe not so much.
Well, to be fair, it's a relatively new genre for you to master. Relatively.
I love dubstep. And, that's another thing, too, is that, I'm definitely not perfect at this, and I'm still learning. You know what I mean? Like, I finally got to the point where, I'm doing, the hi-hat, like, hitting the two different kinds of hi-hat here. So,
so in that instance, the notion that the hi-hat never changes is still there, but you're alternating between two different fingers, right?
that's right. And I just it's got to be a machine. It's just like you do it and then you forget about it. And
Set it and forget it.
yeah, and then you'll find yourself hitting like the open symbol, and you won't even be thinking about doing it. It's just repetition. Just keep practicing. You do the simple patterns, you'll move on to the more complex ones.
Well, so speaking of the more complex one, there's something I noticed when you were doing your initial demo, and I see that it's being asked about here. Where is it? Oh, Trouble2K asks it. Can Josh demonstrate a roll? And I think I saw there's like little grace note rolls that you were doing in there.
Well, yeah, there's two different ways to do that. I mean, there's... Or, being that the kick, snare, and the hi-hat are duplicated in two different places on the keyboard, just... And
hang on. Stop the presses. What I'm seeing, well, we're seeing it from iChat, so we're, unfortunately we're not in high speed motion there. But those 30-second notes, is that you doing that just back and forth, or?
Yeah, well, what I'm doing is I got the kick here, and then I have the kick down at the bottom of the keyboard. So I'm hitting both the snares. Just bang, 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 bang. And what gives it what makes it sound real is that I'm doing it at different velocities. I'm not changing the rhythm at all. I'm just varying up the velocity, and it's changing the dynamics of it. And that's what
is that something you had to train and learn, like when to hit, or is it something that more happens randomly? Your finger will hit harder, and it just sounds authentic, and it kind of works.
Right. No, if you think about it, it won't work. You just have to not think about it. And that's the thing too. You don't want to do it on one key because it's like bouncing back up. You really need two keys to do it effectively. And but if I did it slowly. Right? And then it's just varying back and forth, and just it's like it's a feel thing, man.
Yeah, and you have basically, do you have the same exact mapping, like 2 octaves down?
Yeah, similar mapping. Like if you, let me see, on this part right here, it's hi-hats, and here, let me transpose it down. And the C1, I just transposed the drums down, so C1 is playing on C3. It's toms, right? And I've never really been good with them. So they are slightly different, and depending on what kit it is, I'd say. Let me back up for a second. My two favorite kits are Reason Soul School Detroit, and then the claw finger drum kit from this Reason demo song called I think it's the Heartbeat of Reason or something like that. But that is just the most insane metal kit I've ever used, and it has two different snares instead of a roll. And they're slightly different. So, I mean, you want to talk about a roll. I mean, you start, you play D1 and E1. Dude, it sounds amazing.